Weddings are beautiful and we look forward to them, but then the hard work begins. And I'm not talking about wedding planning, I'm talking about staying married and building a healthy marriage that takes some effort. So joining us to discuss how we can do this is Monica Loewen. She is the Minister of Community Engagement at the Evangelical Free Church in Lethbridge. Welcome to Bridge City News, Monica. So great to have you on today.
Thanks, Jeanette. It is great to be here.
Awesome. So, Monica, your church has a marriage course starting on October the 4th. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about what the focus will be and how it will work as an online course?
For sure. This is actually the second time that we're offering the marriage course online. So this is a free 7-week course. It's been developed by Alpha International, so the same people that brought us the Alpha course. And so while it's actually originally designed to take part in a group setting, COVID-19 has taught us how to do all sorts of things differently. And so what's resulted in this is actually the opportunity to take part in this marriage course in the safety and privacy of your own home as a couple. And we had a lot of great feedback this spring from couples who spoke about wonderful conversations that were sparked by the material that they were able to have because they weren't on a timeline, they didn't have other people around. We also have a mentor couple who will be available to all the participants of the course if they do want to talk to somebody.
That sounds awesome. So always near the top of the marriage strengthening list is communication, of course. So why is this so important, Monica, and why does it seem so difficult to do?
We have seen a lot of amazing technologies just in my short lifetime, let alone throughout civilization. Yet one of the things that we still can't do as couples is actually read each other's minds. And so in order to be able to live and operate in harmony, there needs to be good communication. And so we see this in simple things like talking about who's going to pick up a kid from soccer, as well as tougher conversations, maybe about finances or sex. Without communicating, you just don't know what your partner's thinking.
I know. I wish we're all mind readers. It would make things so much easier, wouldn't it? So do you have any practical steps then that couples can put into practice to become better communicators?
For sure. I think one of the biggest gifts you can give your partner in the area of communication is becoming a better listener. I can't tell you how many times I've missed what my husband is saying because I'm already preparing my next response. So one of the practical tools that the course talks about is using reflective listening, which while awkward is a great tool to ensure you've both been heard and understood, and you've heard and understood what the other person has said. So this involves listening to what your partner says and then reflecting and repeating back to them what you heard and then asking clarifying questions. It can seem really awkward, but it takes away the opportunity for misunderstanding and it makes you focus better on what they're saying. And then in addition to that, make it a priority. Schedule time to regularly catch up in your day as well as longer times during the week or the month. It can get pretty easy to get caught up in life and then realize, oh, wait, we haven't talked in a few days. So just figure out what works. Whether that's sitting down at the table for a coffee, going for a walk, just make it happen.
Now, men and women, we are wired so differently, right? And we think differently, and experts tell us that we tend to have different needs in marriage. I guess that's not a big surprise. So do you have some examples of where our needs are often different?
You know, this is a topic that a lot of books have been written on, things like women are from Venus, men are from Mars, that type of thing. And we are absolutely different from each other. Both of us, we each have different gifts, abilities, different needs. However, actually, I hesitate to classify these as simply a male and female thing. We're all uniquely created, each one of us in the image of God, but with amazing and fantastic differences. And these differences show up in intimate relationships, particularly in marriage. So these differences can complement each other wonderfully, but they can also cause struggles. And I think when we generalize what is typically male and female, we can further cause more problems for people who don't tend to fit in those boxes. I know this has been true for me in the past. I remember being a young married, learning about how all men want is respect and women all want love. So I just needed to respect my husband, and then he would give me the kind of love that I, as a woman, was looking for. Except I found myself longing for the respect that I was told that men wanted. So I was left not only not getting what I was needing, but also feeling maybe there was something wrong with me as a woman because I didn't fit into the box that I was told women fit into. And I'm going to guess I'm not the only person who's felt this way, whether it's a woman wanting the respect she's told belongs to a man, or a man looking for tender care and affection that's generally assigned to women's needs. And so I think all that to say, we're all unique individuals with unique desires and needs. And I think the key is to see our partner as unique and to acknowledge and value the ways in which they are different from us, seeing them for who they are, uniquely and wonderfully created in the image of God.
I really love that because, and it seems like there's more and more research coming out these days too that, we don't just put people in those boxes. This is male, this is female. I mean, there's so much to us and we're such unique individuals. It's crazy interesting how God made us. And the other thing is if we don't understand that our spouse has a different need from us, then we're likely not going to be able to meet those needs, right? So that ties into communication then, right?
Absolutely. It ties in with communication. I mean, how are we sharing these needs with our partner? How are they hearing us? And so this takes courage and vulnerability as well as self awareness. Do I know what I need? The other day, I was really frustrated with the latest COVID restrictions, and I was just grumpy. And I was expressing this to my husband, who actively joined in the conversation, which actually frustrated me more. And I realized after a minute what I needed in that moment was for him to just stop, acknowledge my frustration, and actually just feel sorry for me for a minute. But that took me stopping and acknowledging my internal frustration, thinking it through. And without that self awareness, and then in turn telling him what I needed, my frustration would have continued to grow and likely been vented in his direction for something he didn't do or didn't even know about.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned COVID because I think COVID is causing a lot of conflict with a lot of people. So in marriage, when conflict does come up, we have different ways of handling that. Like you said, we're all so unique. So what are some of the typical unhealthy responses to conflict?
So Doctors John and Julie Gottman of the Gottman Institute, they talk about four responses to conflict, and they call them the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which I think is pretty accurate. The first would be criticism, where you take your anger off the situation, you point it at your partner. What might have started out as an argument about being late for an appointment turns into a personal attack on your partner about their selfishness and disrespect. The second would be contempt, which looks like name calling and mocking and ridiculing, using hurtful words to bully your partner into what you want. The third would be defensiveness, giving a message to your partner that their concerns really don't matter. And when this is used often, it really comes across as self-centered. And the last one would be stonewalling, or just checking out. So when you are starting to feel attacked by your partner, you simply shut down, which might be going silent, not looking at them, just effectively ending the conversation, but also closing the door to resolving that conflict.
Those are some bad ways. So on the flip side, what are some better ways of handling conflict without starting World War III?
I think this is another area where self-awareness is key. Of those four conflict responses we just talked about, do you know which one you lean towards? Have you talked about that as a couple? I know my go-to is criticism. So it's up to me to catch myself when we head down that road. We read in scripture numerous times about being slow to anger. And to me, this means when I feel that anger starting to build, I need to step back. Instead of responding right away, I need to stop, think about the situation. What am I actually upset about? Is it about the issue at hand, or is it being driven by something else? Am I actually frustrated with my partner, or does he just happen to be the person I'm going to take it out on? And so when you are actually angry with your partner, again, slow is important, choosing words carefully, remembering you can't take them back. If a discussion gets heated, take a time out where both of you step away for a set amount of time before coming back to find a resolution. And again, listening carefully. This is where that reflective listening can come in. Not only does that slow the conversation down, when it's done well, it places you in your partner's shoes, bringing understanding, empathy. Man, learning how to resolve conflict or how to fight fair, that is such an important part of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, those are such good nuggets of wisdom. Probably easier said, harder to put into practice at times. So is this something that you discuss in your online class as how to actually implement that in a practical way? Especially in the heat of the moment, it's hard.
It really is hard in the heat of the moment. So I think those practices of that reflective listening, learning those tools ahead of time so that they can come back in that heat of the moment
Yeah.
and cause you to step back and slow down.
Yeah, good advice. Now, we might not realize it, but the way we deal with marriage issues oftentimes goes back to the way we were raised, right? So our parents modeled certain behaviors to us, and we usually end up behaving the very same way or similarly anyway. So why is this important to talk this over as couples?
Our families of origin have a huge impact on us. I can't tell you how many times I can hear my mom's voice in the back of my head, or I say or I do something and I'm struck of how much I'm like my dad. I'm blessed to have parents whose marriage was amazing to see. My parents were truly partners and best friends in everything. They demonstrated respect, honor, they cared for each other well. And so, because their marriage worked out so well, I assumed that how they did things was then just how you did things in marriage. Turns out just because it worked for them doesn't mean it works for everyone. And I think anybody can relate to that. So, having conversations about what we think and believe is key to reducing those misunderstandings, as well as just getting to know and understand our partners. When we can understand where the other person is coming from, it's a lot easier to extend grace. Without that understanding, we can quickly go on the attack with your questioning motives, disregarding their point of view. And so it's important to understand where each one's coming from, to learn about and acknowledge what we've each inherited from our families of origin, and then to take that and build a relationship that works for the two of you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. And it goes back to that everyone's such unique individuals and we all come from different backgrounds. So you were very blessed to have a really good marriage modeled for you. Not everybody has that. Some people come from more dysfunctional families. So if a couple comes together with that, do you suggest different types of counseling? Maybe an individual counseling just to deal with the issues from the past?
Absolutely. I think we can all use counseling all the time. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And so, in a marriage where perhaps one or both is coming from a history of perhaps dysfunction or broken marriage, individual counseling and then professional counseling before a wedding already actually is what we would really suggest. And to keep that counseling going and learning from things like the marriage course, working with a mentor couple, learning healthy practices so that a marriage will turn out healthier, perhaps, than the one that was viewed growing up.
Hmm. Now, they always say that one of the big conflicts in marriage, or one of the things that causes divorce, it's either money or sex, right? So another topic, of course, that your course deals with is that intimacy. So it may be uncomfortable to address, but it really is a key area that needs to be discussed to have a solid relationship. Is that right?
Absolutely. A sexual relationship is the most physically intimate relationship you can have with another person. And that is an area of deep vulnerability. God designed sex to bring a husband and a wife closer together, but as with everything else in this broken world we live in, sin has had an impact on this. So if you think back to the garden, the first response we see to the fall is Adam and Eve's shame and their recognition of their nakedness, of their complete vulnerability before each other and before God. And so in marriage, there's that same vulnerability, both emotionally and physically. And it takes work and time to build the trust that's required for that vulnerability. And so this is another area where communication comes in, and the ability to be completely open about a topic that is intensely personal, trusting that your partner will hear and honor what you have to say.
Yeah. So what kinds of things tend to cause difficulty for couples in those intimate situations, I guess?
Just like we're shaped by our families of origin, we're also shaped by the world around us. And so we enter into relationships with preformed thoughts and views on sex and sexuality, both positive and negative. And it's important to recognize and share these views as well as the impact they've had on you. This includes teaching you may have received within the church. There's been a lot of conversation lately regarding purity culture and the impact that's had on the generation to whom that was focused on. So, to individuals who grew up understanding that sex was bad or it was wrong, it can make it really difficult to view sex as the gift that God created it to be. While I acknowledge and believe that God designed sex to be between one man and one woman, we know that many married couples have had previous sexual partners. My husband and I have both been previously married, so we each have had a previous sexual partner. And so that has an impact on a relationship that needs to be acknowledged, it needs to be addressed. And without good communication and honest conversation, that can cause difficulties. And there's also many, far too many, who've been impacted by the trauma of sexual abuse. And this must be handled with special care and attention, both within a professional counseling situation as well as a safe, loving relationship.
Great advice there. Really quick, because we are out of time. Can you tell our viewers how to get registered for this upcoming marriage course?
Absolutely. We would really encourage everyone to take a look at it, whether you've been married for 6 months, 40 years. They can go to our website, efreelethbridge.ca, scroll down, information and registration is there.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for your time today, Monica. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Monica Loewen is the Minister of Community Engagement at the Evangelical Free Church of Lethbridge. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.